What if I told you there's something out there that's alive one minute and, well, just a simple chemical the next? That's what we're talking about today, the plant virus. It's this bizarre entity that lives right on the razor's edge between life and, well, not life. All right, let's get into this.
So, are they alive? I mean, that's the question, isn't it? It has fascinated and honestly frustrated scientists for more than 100 years. It sounds so simple, but the answer is, well, it's complicated. To get to the bottom of it, we're going to have to look at the evidence from both sides, kind of like a scientific investigation.
And right here, this is the heart of the whole puzzle. The moment a virus gets inside a host cell, it's like a puppet master. It completely hijacks the cell's machinery to make thousands of copies of itself. But outside the host, you can purify it and crystallize it, and it just sits there as inert and stable as a grain of salt.
Okay, so let's play detective here. First up, let's build the case for life. What are the things viruses do that make us want to put them squarely in the living category?
Okay, first big thing, they've got a genome. A set of genetic instructions, RNA or DNA, just like you and me. They use that blueprint to make more of themselves, to replicate. And maybe the most important piece of evidence, their genomes mutate. This means they evolve. They adapt to new challenges, like a plant's immune system trying to fight them off.
And believe me, this isn't just some textbook theory. It's happening in our fields, like right now. Scientists work for years to breed a crop that's resistant to a specific virus, let's say a potty virus. But the virus population is always changing, always mutating, and sooner or later a new version pops up that can beat that resistance. It's this constant, relentless biological arms race.
So, yeah, that's a pretty compelling case for alive, wouldn't you say? But now we've got to flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of the argument. What makes viruses seem more like incredibly complex, but definitely non-living chemicals?
And this is where things get really weird. Viruses aren't made of cells at all. They have none of the stuff we associate with life. No cytoplasm, no mitochondria for energy, no ribosomes to make proteins. They are completely 100% dependent on the cells they infect to do pretty much everything.
And get this, they don't reproduce like living things do, growing and splitting in two. Nope. Instead, the virus turns the host cell into its own personal factory. It just forces the cell to crank out tons and tons of viral parts, the genomes and the proteins. All these parts just float around inside the cell in a big pool until they spontaneously click together, self-assembling into new viruses. It feels more like manufacturing than giving birth.
Okay, if you need one fact to blow your mind about their chemical side, this is it. The tobacco mosaic virus, or TMV for short, can be taken out of a plant, totally dried out, and just sit on a lab shelf for years. It's basically a dormant chemical. But if you reintroduce that chemical powder to a healthy plant, boom, it kicks right back into gear and starts the infection all over again. No living cell we know of could ever survive that.
So here we are, stuck right in the middle. On the one hand, it has a genome that evolves and adapts. On the other hand, it has no metabolism of its own, and you can literally crystallize it like a mineral. How can both of these things be true at the same time? That is the paradox of a virus.
All right, enough with the abstract, is it alive or not debate for a second. Let's get real. What do these things, these virions, actually look like? What's their physical structure?
When you zoom in with an electron microscope, you see this whole world of incredible, almost architectural shapes. They're often super geometric and symmetrical. A lot of them, like our friend TMV, are these long, skinny rods. Others, like the cucumber mosaic virus, are practically perfect spheres, icosahedrons, technically. And then you have complex ones that even steal a bit of the host cell's membrane to wrap around themselves like a cloak. And just to give you a sense of scale here, these things are tiny. A single tobacco mosaic virus particle is only about 300 nanometers long. To put that in perspective, you'd have to line up more than 300 of them end to end just to match the width of one of your hairs. Wow.
Okay, so that's the packaging. But what about the programming? What's the chemical code inside that particle that makes the whole thing work?
And when you peek inside, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. There's this huge variety in their genetic blueprints. The most common playbook for plant viruses, including TMV, is single-stranded RNA. But as you can see, that's just one option. Some use double-stranded RNA, others use DNA, and some even have this really complex system involving reverse transcription. This variety is a huge reason they're so successful and so tricky to deal with.
Okay, so we've been diving deep into this really cool scientific puzzle. But why should you care? I mean, beyond just being a weird curiosity, why does this paradox actually matter in the real world? Well, it matters because every single part of this weird duality tells us how to fight plant diseases. Knowing that a virus can survive like a chemical on farm tools or in dried leaves, that tells us exactly why sanitation is so critical. And knowing that it evolves like a living thing, that tells us why we have to constantly be one step ahead, breeding new resistant crops. This is the bedrock of modern plant pathology.
And that really brings us to the main event, the big takeaway here. The virus's paradox, it isn't a flaw, it's its superpower. Being a stable chemical lets it survive almost anywhere, for ages. But having a genetic code lets it change and adapt like a living thing. That combination makes it an unbelievably effective and dangerous agent of disease.
So in the end, these tiny little things force us to zoom way out and ask a huge question. I mean, if something can just erase the line we've drawn between chemistry and biology, what does that say about our whole definition of life itself? Makes you think, right?